What's up, guys? Welcome to Fold Out Fellowship, a podcast geared for high school and college students. This is where we're going to have great conversations about faithful living in today's world. We just hope that you sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of Fold Out Fellowship.
Peanut butter chocolate flavor.
Yeah. That is a whole new commercial for Reese's Puffs. I never saw that.
That was the only one.
Not my Reese's Puffs.
That ain't not
my Reese's Puffs.
Did you ever have Waffle Crisp?
Oh my gosh.
It just tasted like straight syrup. They were in the shape of waffles, but it tasted like syrup.
That reminds me of the honeycomb. Honeycombs are good. The crunch for honeycombs was
Unparalleled. Yeah. Oh my god.
Speaking of
It
honeycombs,
was so airy. Just what I would do to live that again.
so Mitchell,
It's like you can go buy them.
top 3, bottom 3, best cereals, worst cereals. Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do
You're prepared for
Y'all
this
know
one,
how yes, I'm always prepared.
Yeah, explain it for our listeners.
Yeah,
what
so top 3,
what
bottom
that is.
3, before I pull my phone out. Top 3, bottom 3 is you name, at least how I do it, you name the top 3, so like number 1, number 2, and number 3 of any category. You know,
Okay.
we just said cereals, but it could be movies, it can be really specific things too.
Okay.
And the way I do it is the top 3 are like first, second, third, pretty easy. And then the bottom 3, and sometimes you can do top 5, bottom 5, but we're just doing 3.
Right.
Is 1, 2, 3 on the bottom. I go like 1 on the bottom is best of the worst.
Okay.
So like it's bad, but it's better than
It's the okay.
and like it. So you can still choose
It's
that
bad.
it's something
Number
that's
one
good.
of the horrible.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like I'd still eat that, but if the other ones are
It's just the first place loser.
are around,
Yeah.
First,
There
there
okay.
you go.
Got it.
And then so forth. So
Sweet.
anyway,
So on
let's-
and so forth.
There's a lot of
so
build
on
up to
and
this.
so
I'm
forth.
excited.
So where should we start? Y'all want to start at the bottom?
I've never wanted
Let's
to.
Probably
go.
the bottom, right?
Let's go bottom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The worst cereal of all time, and this isn't just my opinion. This is what everyone thinks. Is shredded wheat.
I'm sorry. Wait, the unfrosted shredded wheat?
Yeah, just the
brick.
brick of
Oh.
you like have.
Have you ever actually eaten that
Yes,
yourself?
it's terrible. It tastes like styrofoam, or not styrofoam, cardboard.
Have you eaten cardboard?
Yes.
Yeah, I have as well.
Sorry.
It's just the thing you
Okay,
have to
sorry. It
experience.
tastes like what I would imagine cardboard would.
Oh,
taste
so you
like.
lied. You don't
I
eat
lied
cardboard.
to everybody. Yes.
Okay, I think I can get behind that actually, because yeah.
I mean, yeah, cardboard
It's
is
not
not
exciting.
great.
There's
Yeah, no, it's not
way more.
exciting.
Do you
Yeah,
like
there's a lot
frosted
more.
shredded wheat?
I do. I
Okay.
do.
Okay.
It's really
So
just
that's
the
bottom.
icing that's missing.
Yeah, it's the icing and the fact that I have to do the work myself.
Okay.
Of
That's bottom
sugaring it.
3.
It's like
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah. Sure. Okay. Next is Raisin Bran.
Raisin.
I know that's gonna be controversial because a lot of people like Raisin Bran. I'm just
Do
not
you know
a
how
fan
to
of
spell
raisin.
raisin?
No, I didn't. I
What's
had
like
to
the
ask.
what's the cereal name of it?
Raisin Bran? That's the name of the cereal.
Raisin
Never
Bran.
heard of Raisin Bran?
No,
Raisin
there's
brand?
there's no D on
No,
it.
not brand. Have
brand.
you thought it's been brand?
Raisin Bran with no
Brand.
D.
Yeah, that's the brand part is the brown.
The cardboard part.
Dude,
Yeah.
my whole
Well,
child-
I think the brand part of Raisin Bran is my favorite,
What?
but I don't.
You're a
Raisin-
lunatic. You don't like the
well,
raisins?
no.
That's the sweet part of the
Raisins
cereal.
You heard it here
are-
first
are
podcast. It's Raisin
subpar in
Bran.
every way.
Raisin
not Raisin
Bland.
Brand.
Yeah, it's more like
Raisin Bran.
more like Raisin Bland.
That's
More like
crazy.
Raisin
I didn't know that.
Brand.
Okay, well,
Well, hey, you learned
I
something
might-
new already.
Second
I might
place
get
loser.
a lot of hate from this one too, but just regular old Cheerios
is the last one.
is like I mean I
It's
guess
First
the
place
worst
loser.
of the worst.
yeah.
Okay.
But
I think toddlers everywhere would disagree with you.
well,
Yeah.
so like that's the thing is I love Cheerios. I think they're the best. Like I think there's another tier above that are like these cereals are like amazing.
Yeah.
But Cheerios are like I still love them, but
They're the best of the worst.
They don't even compare to the best of the
You also have to do your own sugaring of those
Yeah.
because they're not honey nut.
right.
Okay.
So what's your top
Valid.
3?
So top 3, and I'm just gonna. Well, we don't want to waste too much time on this. I'm just
Right.
gonna throw all of them at you.
All right, here
Are
we
y'all
go.
Ready?
Yeah, brace
Buckle
yourselves.
up.
So honey bunches of oats with strawberries.
Okay,
is
that
number
helps.
3.
Fruit helps.
Like the dried strawberries.
I think you lost me there, but okay.
But honestly, any honey bunches of oats I would put there.
Allegedly.
So good.
Yeah.
Oreo O's.
Oreo O's.
Yes, they were canceled. They came back.
Yes,
I
they
think
came
they're still
back.
back.
Yeah,
Ugh.
they did.
But
They're really
it's
good.
like Oreos and milk.
I disagree,
and
but that's
it's
okay.
brilliant.
It's fantastic.
I would also accept Reese's Puffs here. And then Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Classic.
CTC is the best. It's the
What?
best. Hands down, like, good luck. convincing me otherwise.
Cinnamon Toast is...
I'm with you on it. I love Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
I'm a big Reese's Puff guy. Anyways, welcome to our podcast. We're so excited for you guys to be tuning in, whether that's on iTunes, Spotify, or on YouTube. We're excited you guys are here. Glad you got to listen to that little top three, bottom three. Hopefully that's a great tool for you as you're going through wherever you're
Yeah, let us
going.
know if you agree.
Yes, agree or disagree. We're. I'm really excited. These are two great friends of mine and coworkers. We've got Mitchell Kearney right here down here on the end.
Yes, sir.
That's you.
Yep,
And then we've
middle school
got-
outreach director here.
Yes, and then we've got Amanda Shockley.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yes.
Director of Youth Ministries.
Yes, and
The
then
big head honcho.
yes.
Yes.
You've got head
Awesome.
honcho and junior honcho.
Boss.
Very, very junior. My name's Ashton. I am the high school outreach director here at MDPC. So I'm glad we've gotten to gather here in the basement to talk about cereal.
As people do.
Yes, as people do a lot of times.
Yep. All right, so that's a wrap.
Right. No, but more importantly, today, to start off the podcast, the first episode of Fold Out Fellowship, which is hinted at our fold-out chairs, nice furniture, nice and sturdy. No chance I ripped it before I sat down. A question is the topic. Ready? What does good friendship look like? What does that mean? Good friendship. But before we get into the good friendship, I really feel like we should cover the not so good friendship look like. So maybe Amanda, you can dive into what in your opinion, what does good friendship not look like?
Gosh, I have great experiences with that.
Have you had a lot of bad friends?
Well,
I mean, I think all of us have.
Yeah.
I think, it just takes one bad friend to really kind of impact you. But
So true.
I had the unique experience of starting high school out of being homeschooled. So my base of friends was my family for middle school. But I also didn't have to do the awkward middle school years in front of a bunch of people, which was nice
That
because
is very nice.
Yeah.
I was pretty awkward. But so I entered into high school out of my homeschool experience and really thought, okay, the way that I make friends is I'm just the loud, obnoxious Christian. And, always arguing with your science teacher and inviting people to church.
I was going to ask what that looks like.
Yep.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And turns out nobody really wants to be friends with that person.
What? That's crazy.
It was so weird.
Yeah.
And
We would have been your friends.
thank you.
I'm
Guys.
just kidding.
Yeah. If it's a lie, it's okay. It's all right. I don't know if I would be friends with me, who I was then. I was a little obnoxious.
That's deep. Should we tackle that?
Yeah, that's another episode,
Yeah.
obviously.
Okay.
But so freshman and sophomore year, really my only friends were my youth group friends because they had to be, right? You
right.
show up to youth group and, that's your body. That's the body of Christ. They're supposed to love you no matter what. And my youth group did a good job of loving me.
Shout out that youth group.
Right? Christ Church of Grove Farm. Thank you.
There we go.
And so, but I didn't like not having friends. And so I started looking around to see how other people made friends and realized that I had to let go of all these things that, like being a good Christian and following the straight and narrow and making good choices. That if I wanted to have friends and I wanted to be a part of the crowd that I envied, I needed to throw that into the trash and put that on the back burner. So I needed to leave my relationship with Jesus there and to pursue going out to the parties and talking about things that I had no experience with, but I pretended to have experience with and wanting to be a part of that crowd. And I did have people befriend me, but what kind of friends were they, right? They only noticed me when I started showing up to parties, or I would be the driver, or, I talked like I knew about certain things.
Yeah.
And that really created this gap for me in what friendship actually meant. So I don't think I experienced a ton of true friendship, or at least I didn't realize I had true friends, because what I wanted in a friend was the popular crowd. What I wanted was a status. And so in order to have that, I had to leave behind who I was and who God had created me to be. So for me, I think, a bad friendship looks like people who make you put Christ on the back burner, make you put your identity in Jesus in secret or hide it in order to be friends with them. You can't talk about those things. You can't be that person in order to be friends with them. And if that is who you're friends with, that's a bad friendship.
Yeah, because then it kind of speaks on what's anchoring the connection between you and that person, you know? And it sounds like it was a lot of contract relationships.
Yeah,
you know?
yes.
Circumstance.
Yeah.
Which is just so bad.
Yeah,
so
friends for a
unhealthy.
weekend or friends for just that moment. You know, you made friends at a party, but you didn't really talk to them afterwards. It was all very transactional, very much, and it shifted really easily. It could shift in a moment's time, and even into college a little bit. I think that was how I made friends. But God was gracious in providing good friends through college, and I'm thankful for that. But it took a while to learn a lot of trial and error, what good friends meant. And it meant that my faith took a back seat to that for a long time.
Because they take building, right? I mean, you can't just jump into a friendship and be best friends forever.
Yeah.
Right.
Like 5 seconds of meeting someone, right? But sometimes they start that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was true.
Well, Mitch, let me follow up with Amanda. So, you know, Amanda kind of covered what does a good friendship not look like. Do you have any experience with what good friendship does look like, or just personal stories with that?
Yeah, well, I hope so. I hope I have good
I hope so.
friends,
If not,
right?
we can hug after this and figure it out.
Well, we're your good friends.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
y'all are my good friends.
Okay, good.
Yes. So there's a great example right there. I guess when I was younger, or I guess 7th, 8th grade, I had friends that. I mean, maybe we can relate to this too, right? There was the lunch table that like all the cool kids sat at, and I think everyone in our grade, like almost sort of had their go at it, right? They're like, well, I'm gonna go sit over there, like I can hold with these guys, and it was like a rotation of guys that are just like all like alpha male mentality, like they were the funniest, they were the most good looking, or at least they thought they were. And
In 8th grade, yeah.
yes, and
they'd
they're
all
the
peak.
most athletic, and they like all the
yeah.
girls like, so they were just the coolest, right?
Right.
And everyone kind of had their go at the like, I'm gonna fit in with this crowd. And then there's the idea of like the difference between that I had to wrestle with, and thankfully I wrestled with it in like 7th, 8th grade, kind of in this transition before high school. But there was this idea of like peers and friends. It's like, do I know these people and they're around me, and that's the extent, like I just see them at school?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way to think of it. It's like, well, I only see, like you, in my mind, you only exist at school, really. So that's our relationship is at school, and it only gets to a certain level. And then there's the like, of course, like kind of what Amanda was saying, you have the friends that, I mean, if you build it right, it's like that. That's a friendship where you can get to a certain point of like vulnerability and like actually voicing what you feel and like talking to them like you trust them, you know? So I went through that, and I had kind of my shot at it, and I think I lasted a little bit, but I
Well
deep
done.
down
Nice.
though, it didn't matter. I mean, I'm glad I didn't keep like going to that table and hanging out with those, like I called them friends, because it didn't feel good. We were always like dog eat dog world, like let's just rat on each other and like be mean and toxic and stuff. So there's one day where I just clearly went to my old friends, I guess you could call them, like which is based on vicinity. Like these are the friends that grew up in my neighborhood, and like the friends that I was friends with in elementary school that like
OGs.
I'd known them for a while. And there's a topic on that too of like, you know your friends at least from a young age just because they like live close to you.
Right.
But those tend to be some of the deeper relationships that we have and deeper friendships we have. But yeah, I mean, those are some of my solid friends. I still talk to them now. One moved to Houston right when I moved to Houston, so that was great.
Nice.
And then others I'd call and talk to every single day. I'm just like,
That's
it's
awesome.
not even like, oh, hi, you're calling. It's just like a, hey, what's up? And sometimes we'll just sit on the phone and just like talk as we like do things around our house or like go shopping or something.
That's sweet.
That's awesome.
So it's like those are the friends that I went to, and I think everyone kind of has their core group of friends.
Oh, yeah,
right? Or at
for
least at some point you're striving for that. Like, okay, well, maybe I don't have a lot of friends, but I know this person I can trust, and this person, it starts with one and then grow. But
And so you really found good friendships at an early age, and that was and has formed how you view friendship.
yeah, and I think there's like we had friends kind of join our group too that were almost like a little more temporary. Like you could tell, like, oh, maybe we're gonna be really good friends and then maybe we were for like a season, but then like values changed, or like maybe, I mean, betrayal would happen or something. I think everyone kind of fears someone betraying them or like saying something behind their back, because then that breaks a part of your trust for them, and you're like, well, you don't know how to really say it. You're like, I don't know if I want to be friends with you anymore.
Yeah.
No,
which
dude,
is
But a lot of people don't say that.
That's a whole other
You're just like, okay, well,
topic,
let's just struggle through this. Like, I don't like that you did that, but like, we're still best friends.
Yeah.
It's like,
that commitment.
It's funny how you bring up how important trust is, because you know we're lucky enough to have a conversation yesterday with Katie, our licensed counselor here on campus at MDPC, and we were just talking about what relationships look like and how a healthy relationship is formed. And I think a lot of times when we talk about relationships, especially to high school students, college students, when you hear relationship, it's automatic romantic. And we like to rush to that because it's exciting and it's, adventurous, whatever you want to put there. But there's something that comes before that. There's a predecessor to that. It's friendships.
Yeah.
Relationships with friends is something that is so monumental, for people, because we're called as Christians to live in community with one another. And so Katie, bringing up Katie yesterday, and us getting to meet, she painted us a picture for you guys listening or watching out there, a picture of like a pyramid. And Mitchell mentioned the base layer just now, and it's called trust. And
was it trust?
It's truth.
Truth. It was
Dang
truth.
it. I'm sorry, Katie.
Trust is
I
a part
messed
of
up.
it, though.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
I'll get
you
there.
just jumped blocks.
Yep.
Which
And
is actually a
that's
great
a great example of what
we
not
do.
to
Yeah,
do. Yeah,
exactly.
right.
Perfect example.
What we shouldn't do.
We planned that, by the
so-
way. He was supposed to mess it up.
Anyways, the first base is truth, honesty. Is the person that you're wanting to be in friendship with, are they honest to you?
And can you be honest with them?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's a two-way street. All these are, I feel like. And
And it's
that's
just like, do they tell the truth?
Yeah,
Like if
you know.
you're like friends with them, or like you're calling yourself friends, and then they're just like, they like say a lie about you.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, what?
right. Or are they true? 'Cause
Yeah.
maybe,
Are they true to themselves too?
Yeah.
I like that.
Are they true? And then, so we have truth at the base level, which I feel like you lose a lot of people if you're thinking of like, all right, I've got a crowd of 40.
That's a good
'Cause we put on
filter.
masks.
Who is
Right.
who's my truthful people?
Yeah.
It's just
Might
like-
lose a little
Because we
bit.
put on
great
masks,
baseline.
we act
Yeah,
different ways
absolutely.
in front of people.
So easy.
Sometimes
It's so easy to.
it's tough to be like that.
Yeah.
So once you get past that gate, there is then the second level. So you have truth on the bottom, and then the second level, Katie explained, was safety. Because I don't know about you guys, but with the friends that I feel are truthful to me and I can be truthful to, whether it's conflict or just good conversation, I also feel very safe with them because I can
Yeah,
have those
absolutely.
true conversations. So it makes a lot of sense. Safety comes after establishing if they're a true person to you.
Yeah, it eliminates some of the insecurity you can feel in relationships. If
Yeah.
the truth is there and you can build that safety, that some of that insecurity goes away in
Yeah.
the relationship.
Yeah. And for all those listening about 2 minutes ago, if you just joined, I covered this already, but to go to the third topic, so you have base level truth, second level safety, the third level is trust. And trust is a monumental piece of it, I think, because in today's world and like the public profiles compared to the personal profile, who knows you publicly and who knows you personally.
Right.
And then who are you trusting to know you personally? Who are you trusting to know you, on a closer level like that? I think that's just
Yeah, who
It's
you
huge.
allow to see behind the Snapchat, behind the
Right.
TikTok, behind
Right.
whatever you're posting. Who gets to see what you don't, who you're not hiding from.
Yeah.
You're not hiding from them at all.
Yeah.
It's just there's that trust there.
trust
Yeah.
is huge. And then after trust, I feel like we start getting into, the real nitty gritty stuff. So after trust, a great friendship involves vulnerability.
Yeah.
So you have trust, and then that kind of, it's always kind of leaning into the next stage of this pyramid that we were painted. But, vulnerability is something I feel like, especially with high school guys and the college guys I know as well, it takes a lot of time to get to
We
that
don't like
vulnerable.
being vulnerable.
Yeah, no, it's
know?
not easy.
Yeah.
Usually you have to kind of like channel your emotional side a little bit. I know for
Absolutely.
me, I do.
Well, and when you do it too, and you are vulnerable, it's like guys, especially, we're really particular when we're like allow ourselves to be vulnerable. 'Cause I think as a guy, like I even try to keep things bottled up.
Yeah.
So it's like you really, really have to make sure, and like I find myself double checking all the steps prior are good, and then I'm like, okay, I think maybe I can be
safe
vulnerable
to be
here.
vulnerable.
Which is that's why in college I had a discipleship group where we had one guy that led me and two friends through 3 years of Bible study and going through the Bible together. But I felt like I could share and be vulnerable with those guys far more than our community group that was from church. But we had it was a very healthy community group of 20, 30 people. But I could not share the same things I was sharing at discipleship there because not all those characters in the room have passed these things that we're talking about, you know? And so I feel like for guys especially, they shut that down. You know, it's way easier to put the mask on and, you know, tough through it, you know, instead of being vulnerable and honest. But it's also kind of a testament to like, okay, well, it's okay to have a smaller group of true friends, right? Like
more is not better,
right?
Especially when it comes to building those things.
Yeah.
And I think you guys are talking from a guy perspective, which is so true. I think from the girl perspective, so often we start with vulnerability first without building those things, because we are a little more comfortable with our emotions. We're a little more in tune with them. We understand more about what we're feeling a little bit. We can verbalize it a little bit better.
It must be nice.
Sometimes it's nice. But I think so often when we're building friendships, we think, oh, well, I'm just going to like fire hydrant my vulnerabilities to this person.
See who accepts it. See who's like, oh.
Yeah, me too. Or, oh, okay, without checking all those boxes. And then we wonder why we feel insecure in friendships, or we have these big dramatic betrayals where we're gossiped about, or somebody's talking about us to other people in that friend group because we misplaced that vulnerability. We didn't check all those boxes of, is this a truthful person? Am I my true self with this person? Is this a safe place to share? Do I trust that what I share here stays here? And that's something we try and establish in life groups with our girls is like, what happens here stays here. And if, you have to police yourself a little bit too of like, is what I'm going to say safe in this place?
Right.
And I don't think we ask ourselves that question when we're building friendships as girls. Very often we just kind of like blurt it out because we want to get it off our chest.
Yeah.
But you do have to put that work in, and we talk about those building blocks needing to take time. It's not a week-long thing.
Yes.
It's not, it's months. It's months of building those first 3 layers in order to get to the next step.
And what's crazy, things really start to click when you put it that way, right? It's like we do jump into relationships, and guys are definitely guilty of this too, of being too vulnerable, at least at some points.
For sure.
And then it's like when someone betrays you, you're like, what the heck? And it's like, well, you didn't really even know them that well before you trusted them,
right?
And before you were vulnerable with them. So it might seem like it comes out of left field, but it's like it didn't.
Yeah.
You just jumped so many steps, and it's like you don't know who you were telling that to. Or like if you're telling in a group and you don't know those people very well yet, it's like, who knows what they're going to do? They could be just recording you right now, like we're being recorded.
Right. Well, isn't that the problem with social
recorded?
media? Not the problem, but that is something that people struggle with on TikTok and Instagram. People who put their lives out there for people to see, they're so subject to how people receive them then and what people say. And they don't even know them. But you're opening up these really tender places of yourself to an unsafe audience when you don't build those those first 3 layers of the pyramid.
Yeah. No, and that's I mean, each layer that we're covering could be a whole podcast of its own.
Right.
Maybe it will be. Who knows? This is the first one. So if you want if you want those to be, just let me know.
I think the coolest thing about it too is that like each layer requires the previous. You know?
Yeah.
And then I like what you said at the very beginning when you started talking, Amanda. You said more friends is not better, right? I think a lot of ourselves convince ourselves that, like especially in high school.
It's almost like a safety net.
It's like, well,
putting out there.
Okay, well, if these 20 friends fail me, I got another crew of friends over here. It's like, I mean, if you're spreading yourself thin, then that's exactly what you're doing. So I just wanted to highlight that because I think that's really good.
Yeah,
you know,
and not to make this a like a dating episode, but like I think that's where a lot of us fall short, especially when I was figuring out dating in high school, figuring out dating in college, and even now, if you have to go through those before that, and a lot of us, especially friendships, the people that we're close to, if you're jumping to vulnerability, you're then putting them at, very close to your center. They are close with you and they're walking through a lot of things with you. But then if you've jumped all those ahead and you've put them at your core and then they betray you, or if they,
It's
break
identity
those things,
shaking.
oh yeah, I mean, it shakes your whole world.
It really is.
So that's just
One more thing about vulnerability
Yeah.
that Katie shared that I thought was so important is often when we are vulnerable first, we're putting the responsibility on somebody else to take care of something we should be doing ourselves. So if we have, especially for girls, I think, we're wrestling with a relationship with our parents or something like that, and we reveal that to somebody else without establishing those boundaries. What we're doing is we're trying to have somebody else solve our problem with that relationship. And I know that we often say, well, I'm just getting feedback. But if you haven't built those stages, right, that person has no context for how they're helping you. And really, it's work you need to be doing on yourself first, and not putting the responsibility on somebody else to fix your problems. And that's where I think vulnerability can get toxic too. You are not taking responsibility for some of your emotions. You're not taking responsibility for some of the things you're going through. You're trying to have somebody else solve it.
Yeah.
And they've not earned the right to speak into it. And I thought that was really important that Katie said that, because we want to outsource a lot of our healing to somebody else rather than letting God come and do that for us and coming and speaking into those places first.
Yeah, and because it isn't just like well, I need to figure this out on my own. It's like, on your own, but like with Jesus' help, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we're not saying like, oh, just go off and figure it out by yourself, sit in your room alone. It's like, well, maybe sit in your room alone and then like open your Bible, pray, like invite God into that too, because He knows exactly what you're going
What does God
through.
say first before you go to your friends and see what they say?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think the invitation for Christ to come in and guide you through that is so crucial.
What is at the top of the pyramid?
The
we
top
haven't
of the
even gotten to the
pyramid.
top.
It's
We're just-
it's very, very insane. Are you ready?
It's insane.
I'm so
yes,
ready.
It's wild.
Like it's the word insane. Then your friendships are insane. They're so good. They're
Yeah,
insane.
that's the top.
Fireworks. Celebration.
So at the top of the pyramid is intimacy. So we've
a
gone
big word.
through. It is a very huge word. You go through truth. Who is true? That makes a good friend at the first level. Second is safety. Do you feel safe with them? 3 is trust. Do you trust them after you've felt safe and true with them? 4th level, vulnerability. And then intimacy after that. And kind of like our reaction to intimacy, it is automatically, I feel like, at least for me, for a while, I think that's a romantic relationship with my wife. One
Right.
day,
Right.
But there is a level of intimacy with your
it's so
closest
much
friends.
more than that.
Yeah.
It's so much
Yeah.
more than just.
So let's dive into intimacy a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the closeness of your friendships. Well, because you would say that you have an intimate relationship with God, right?
Right.
When you're in a relationship with Jesus, He sees more than anybody else does. Like, talk about intimate. That is the deepest parts of your soul.
Yeah.
And I think you said earlier when we were just talking off to the side was closeness. Like intimacy is closeness. It's also accountability, right? Where somebody has gone through the gauntlet. And you to them too, right? The other side of this is that you are also somebody who someone can trust and feel
Well,
safe
and that's
with.
a good little sidebar, really
Yeah.
quick, is like both parties should be doing
Yeah,
this,
you're not
right?
just the receiving end
Right.
of
Yeah,
this
yeah.
pyramid.
Like,
You
let me
also
check off the box.
You
and
should
make sure
be
you're good.
living
Like,
out
you
this
should be
pyramid.
doing it.
Yes,
both of
yeah,
you.
you have
Sorry, keep going.
responsibility to also be a good
This
friend.
is a challenge.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is about looking for good friendships and being good.
And
If you
being
want-
a good friend.
If you
Yeah.
want good friends, then be a good friend.
Right.
Exactly.
Tweet,
know.
retweet that.
But sorry, you were.
Retweet.
Retweet that.
Rethread. Isn't that
Rethread it?
threads or
Yeah.
something?
Sure.
But I think, accountability is a part of that intimacy. Once you have been vulnerable with a friend about something you're struggling with or you're going through in a healthy capacity, right? You're not looking for them to take it on for you, but they can speak wisdom into your life, especially if they've earned that right. That they can speak wisdom into your life, or just be like, hey, I don't like where you're headed, or I don't like what you're saying about yourself, or I don't like that relationship that you're in, and here's why it's unhealthy, or it's not bringing out the best in you. And I think that's a part of the intimacy of a friendship too, is somebody who is not just someone who receives the things that you have to, say, or they're a trustworthy person. It's also that accountability of you add something in that's godly. And obviously we always test things from that people say to us against scripture and what God says to make sure it matches up. But accountability is a part of that intimacy that's at the top when it comes to friendships and romantic relationships. But you got to learn how to be a friend first.
Yeah, right. If you can't be a good friend to somebody, you're probably going to need to figure some stuff out before you dive into a healthy relationship.
Yes.
Well, and what I just thought of too while you were talking, it's cool because if intimacy is at the top, that's almost like the goal of either a relationship like
That's a good point.
between two, I guess, romantic partners, or like two friends, right? Is intimacy. So if that's the goal, then like let's go back down to the bottom of the list, even before we start laying the pyramid. It's like, what's the goal of you becoming friends with this person?
Yeah.
And no one really thinks that.
Right.
Everyone's just like, oh yeah, like this person's really funny and I like enjoy hanging out with them.
Yeah.
That's normally where your like goal starts, or
that you just don't want to be alone, and that's
right.
not a good
and that's
goal
not good either. But if you think about it in that frame of mind too, of like, well, I want to establish and find good friends because I want to have intimacy. I want to be known by people, and I want to have this like this backup group of people that hold me accountable and that like I can lean on, you know, when I need them. And it's like that should be the goal of all friendships, right? I mean essentially that's why when we have a really good relationship with Christ, like we can lean on him like that. It's like we should almost like these friendships are just many like reflections of what it should be like with Jesus, right?
Yeah.
So it's like how can we just have that be the goal instead of just like what is probably typical of middle school, high school, college is like, I want to just be friends with you because like of status or
fast friendships.
Well, and it's cool too now that as we kind of wind down, wind out, whatever the term is. As we
wind up,
as we end out, the big thing is like you both have said, it's biblical. All this stuff that we're going through, it's anchored in Scripture, and Jesus walked the earth living out these things. And like Amanda was saying, at intimacy at the top of the pyramid, I feel like Jesus was pretty intimate with those 12 that followed him, but that didn't mean all sunshine and rainbows either. They were close. They trusted him. They were safe with him. They felt truth in him. They were vulnerable with him. But then they were also able to be held accountable. Like he called them out whenever they didn't do right, or when they messed up, and just like us
in the garden, he's like,
wake
up.
waking them up, and like that's I feel like we get questions all the time in youth ministry. Of kids being like, well, how do I talk about that with a friend? Like, I don't want them to feel like I'm judging them. I don't want them to feel like I'm offending them. And well, maybe the question is, where does your friendship status lie?
Right.
That
pyramid.
Yeah. Because have you put in the effort to be at that level of being able to call somebody out and them trust you, know you're true, know your intentions are good, know that you want them to feel safe and that they feel safe with you.
Right, because when you build those things, then the assumption from the other person when you say like, hey, this doesn't, like, I'm worried about you. They know you because those building blocks are in. So their assumption about you is not, they're trying to tear me down. Their assumption about you, because they trust you and you're safe and you're true and they've been vulnerable with you, their assumption is you want what's best for me. So I can hear you from a place of knowing you want what's best for me. And then you can internalize it versus being like, who do you think you are? How dare you come at me? That indicates
Back up, Chief. Who you think
that
he is?
indicates a friendship that doesn't have that
Right.
foundation necessary to support intimacy and vulnerability.
Yeah.
Which is such a good question to ask across the board, friendship, romantic.
Right. Yeah. So that's awesome. That was a great
Yeah.
conversation about that. I think, just to,
Is this the part where we're like, hey, let us know in the comments below, like, subscribe?
I guess so.
Hit that
that's
thumbs
like
up
button.
button.
Before we do that bit,
Do-do.
Nice.
Nice.
Classic. No, yeah,
No high five.
I think this is very, very good for whatever stage of life you're in. High school, college, young adults, or just in the adulting world, right? I mean, friendships go forever. We're called the community till we leave this place, till we leave Earth and go home, and it is huge for us to know what healthy is, especially now with social media being the forefront of every conversation when it comes to followers. Who is your buddies on Snapchat? Who's your what do they call it?
Who's your best friend on Snapchat?
Who's your
The
BFF?
little gold
Who's got
hearts,
the
like,
gold
oh,
heart?
You snapped them
Yeah.
the most.
Oh,
you left me on red.
You left.
I mean, there's
bruh.
so many ways to be connected, and
Yes.
yet the studies have shown, which sounds so vague. I'm so sorry. Mitchell doesn't even let his middle school boys do this, but the countless studies that have shown that we are the loneliest we have ever been. It is reaching
And most
catastrophic
Yeah.
levels where the CDC has even issued warnings about loneliness, and there are resources to combat loneliness, and we are a lonely people even though we're connected. And so I think that begs the question that we're talking about now is, how do you seek out good friendships then?
Right.
What is the purpose of them?
Yeah.
It is not just to fill the emptiness. It is to have meaningful relationships that reflect what Christ called us to reflect, which is that pyramid, right? You build that trust and you show each other Christ's love through that.
That's great.
Truth, safety, trust, vulnerability, intimacy. That's just for all of you wanting to write that down. But yeah, no. Well, Mitchell, Amanda, thank you guys for joining me on today's podcast of Fold Out Fellowship. Again, we hope that you guys can use this conversation and use our viewpoints and our conversation topics, even the banter of cereal. We hope that you guys can use that to just deepen your relationships with Jesus and deepen your relationships with those around you, and hopefully speak the name of Jesus to those in your friend group that maybe you haven't gotten to talk to yet about him. So with that is the end of the first episode of Fold Out Fellowship.
Woo!
Yeah, that was great. It was a good job. I kinda
Live
hit the
audience?
microphone.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
for our
live audience.
audience.
Oh my gosh, they were great. Yeah, well, oh yeah, okay.
Mitchell, you're so handsome.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, with
I didn't
that,
need to laugh that loud at that.
we
I'm
will.
glad you did, though.
We will see you guys next week on Fold Out Fellowship. Peace.
Yeah, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.